Do you remember that breathless rush of excitement as your sneakers hit the pedals and the world opened up before you? The jingle of a chrome bell, sun-warmed handlebars beneath your hands, and the sweet scent of cut grass whipping by. Riding a bike in the 1970s was pure, simple freedom. Back then, your bicycle wasn't just a mode of transportation, it was your ticket to adventure, independence, and sometimes a little mischief with friends. Banana. Seats, high-rise handlebars and streamers dancing in the wind, every detail told a story about who you were. The block seemed endless, new trails were discovered daily, and every ride felt like a journey to uncharted territory. Did you ever race the wind down a hill, your heart pounding as you hoped the brakes would catch at the last second? Relive how these two-wheeled companions shaped our childhoods, bringing neighbors together and fueling endless afternoons of laughter. So what made these 70s bicycles so unforgettable, and how did they capture the spirit of a generation? Let's set those wheels spinning once more and rediscover why every ride was a taste of true freedom. As the 1970s dawned, something remarkable was happening on American streets, and it rolled in quietly at first, on two sturdy wheels. Bicycles were about to become not just a child's toy or a way to pass the time on lazy summer afternoons, but a cultural phenomenon that shaped an entire generation's sense of independence and exploration. For those growing up in this era, the bicycle represented much more than just simple transportation. It was the first real taste of freedom, a passport to the unexplored corners of your own neighborhood, and sometimes even a gentle act of rebellion against the watchful eyes of parents. Yet the story of the 70s bicycle craze didn't start overnight. It was the outcome of years of subtle shifts in technology, in social attitudes, and in the hopes and dreams of American families just like yours. If we turn back the clock just a bit, the years before the 70s tell a different tale about bicycles. Through much of the 1950s and 60s, bikes were largely the domain of children, seen mostly as a rite of passage, marking that first step toward growing up. Most adults left biking behind in favor of the latest new family sedans, and the notion of biking for fun was rarely heard of outside of pockets of dedicated cycling enthusiasts. Into cities and suburbs alike, kids rode heavy, single-speed cruisers built more for durability than speed. Paperboys strapped loaded canvas bags to the back, and baseball gloves dangled off handlebars as friends cruised from sandlot to soda shop. But for the most part, bicycles were still viewed as something you eventually outgrew, until the world started to change. The late 1960s had America on the move. There was the undeniable pull of the open road, thanks in part to a booming car culture, but at the same time, a quiet revolution was bubbling under the surface. Concerns about pollution, the cost of gasoline, and a growing fascination with health and fitness all played their part. People began to look for alternatives that felt a bit more connected to the world around them, and the humble bicycle fit that bill perfectly. Did you know that environmental awareness, spurred on by events like the very first Earth Day in 1970, directly inspired a renewed interest in cycling as a clean, green way to get around? Suddenly, the idea of a bicycle wasn't just for kids anymore. Students commuted across college campuses, young adults pedaled to work or for weekend pleasure rides. Even families began to consider weekend cycling trips as quality time together. One of the most surprising developments in the ramp-up to the 70s boom was the importation of lightweight, multi-speed bicycles from Europe and Japan. Until then, most American bikes were hefty, built to withstand the rowdiest playground races and the occasional tumble, but in the late 60s, models like the English Rally, the French Peugeot, and a wave of nimble Japanese 10-speeds hit American shores. Unlike the behemoths of the past, these new rides were designed for ease and speed. They had thinner tires, lighter frames, and, most thrillingly of all, gears that let you tackle more than just the gentle slopes of your local neighborhood. Picture yourself scanning the Sears catalog, heart pounding as you eyed the gleaming photos of the Schwinn Varsity or the Rally Grand Prix with their impossibly sleek silhouettes, a world away from the sturdy wagons you'd known before. And so, the so-called bike boom truly exploded. By 1973, bicycle sales in the United States had more than doubled from just a few years prior, exceeding even the sale of new cars in some months, a statistic that stunned auto executives and thrilled cycling enthusiasts alike. Factories scrambled to keep up. Schwinn, the reigning American manufacturer, faced back orders stretching into months, while newcomers tried to carve a niche with flashier features or lower price tags. Did your family ever wait impatiently for a long-promised new bike to finally arrive? Some parents even started putting their names on waiting lists at local stores in the hopes of nabbing the latest model before the summer was over. It's astonishing to realize that at its peak, nearly 15 million bicycles were sold in a single year, a wave that changed not just how children played, but how entire communities moved. Of course, bicycles in the 70s were as diverse as the neighborhoods they zipped through. Picture the suburban streets humming with vibrant Schwinn Stingrays, famous for their banana seats, high-rise handlebars, and dazzling paint jobs. These bikes became legendary for their customizability. Kids traded parts, added baskets, and festooned their bikes with streamers, horns, and colored reflectors. Every ride was a rolling canvas, a statement of personal style, but equally important were the adult 10 speeds, machines that appeared serious and sophisticated and promised not just adventure, but a connection to broader trends, fitness, leisure, and that growing sense of environmental awareness. Do you recall watching your older siblings or even your parents don a pair of impossibly tight shorts and head out for a real ride on their multi-geared marvels? But underlying all this excitement was a deeper cultural movement. The 1970s were a time when Americans began to question many old certainties about the environment, about energy, about personal health. Riding a bike wasn't just about getting from place to place. For many, it was a way to participate in something bigger, a subtle declaration of independence from the automobile and maybe even from some of the conventions of the day. It's fascinating to see how a simple thing like a bike could become wrapped up in a kind of social statement, sometimes conscious, sometimes just felt in the thrill of the ride. One detail that often gets overlooked is how city planning responded or failed to respond during the height of bicycle fever. Across the country, communities experimented with building the very first designated bike lanes, sometimes just a stripe of paint on a busy road, sometimes a proper path winding through parks and suburbs. Do you remember feeling both exhilarated and a bit nervous as you took those first rides in newly marked lanes, the scent of fresh paint still hanging in the summer air? For many, this was the first time adults and children shared the same public space on two wheels. It was both liberating and occasionally mildly terrifying. Despite all its wholesomeness and energy, the boom years weren't without their quirks. Police in some cities struggled to keep up with a sudden increase in bicycle thefts, and families began marking their property with everything from engraved initials to brightly painted stripes, anything to make their prized bike stand out in a crowd. Do you remember that feeling of pride and maybe a touch of paranoia as you locked your bike up outside the local convenience store, the chain rattling in your hands? The arrival of bicycles as a true phenomenon in the 1970s marked not just an echo of earlier childhood fun, but a reimagining of what freedom meant for an entire generation. The simple joy of spinning wheels and wind in your face became tied to bigger ideas: environmentalism, personal health, even the dream of a slower, more connected life. And as we look back, it's clear that those moments of pedal-powered exploration were just the beginning of something far larger. But that's not all the story has to offer. While the stage was set with this grand boom and the eager adoption of European and Japanese innovations, the 1970s had plenty more surprises in store, especially when it came to the bikes themselves. So what groundbreaking designs and radical features defined this golden era of two-wheeled ingenuity? Let's dive deeper and explore how technology and design transformed the humble bicycle into the true icon. As we coast to a gentle stop on our journey through the world of 70s bicycles, it's clear that these humble machines delivered far more than just wheels spinning over asphalt and gravel. We've revisited the early bike boom, when lightweight, multi-speed wonders from across the Atlantic began appearing in American garages, forever changing our ideas of adventure and possibility. We took a look back at those iconic banana seats tricked out, Stingrays, gleaming 10-speeds, and the pride that came with customizing your ride until it was as unique as you were. We remembered how the city's first bike lanes opened up the world in new ways, brought neighbors together, and offered a taste of independence for both young and old. Those memories, the heart-pounding race down a hill, the comfort of a well-worn handlebar grip, the way a bike ride could turn a regular afternoon into an adventure, are woven into the fabric of our childhoods. But beyond the chrome and candy-colored paint, these bicycles represented something much deeper. In an era when the world felt like it was changing in every direction, a bicycle offered a sense of control. It set you free to go where you wanted, when you wanted, powered only by your own effort. That sense of freedom, combined with the need to explore, shaped the neighborhoods and friendships of that time. Tiny bands of pedal-powered pioneers, forging their own paths under wide blue skies. Even more, it taught a generation the simple joys of movement, the thrill of self-reliance, and the fun of discovery. With a bicycle, the boundaries of your childhood expanded, the map of your world growing with every determined push of the pedal, every shared laugh at the curb. Looking back now, it's easy to see those rides for what they were. Small acts of joy and defiance, a declaration of independence from the familiar and the mundane. Maybe you still remember the smell of summer asphalt warming in the sun, the cool breeze on your face, or the anxious hope that you'd beat your friends to the end of the block. Memories that feel just as fresh today as they did half a century ago. So, what did freedom on two wheels mean to you? Was it the first time you rode solo without training wheels, the taste of wind and accomplishment mingling together? The summer evenings racing home at dusk trying to squeeze in one last adventure before the streetlights came on? Or maybe the thrill of accompanying family or friends, the shared understanding that the road ahead was yours to explore. Share your favorite bicycle memory from the 1970s in the comments. Tell us about your most beloved ride, your wildest adventure, or a lesson you learned on two wheels. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, be sure to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss out on more stories that celebrate the times we remember most fondly. And if you know a friend or sibling whose past is forever tied to the click of playing cards in their spokes, why not share this video with them and rekindle those happy echoes together? There are more nostalgic journeys just around the bend, and together we can relive the magic of the past, one cherished memory at a time. Because no matter how many years have rolled by, a part of us will always be that wide-eyed rider, chasing horizons and freedom on wheels.